Thank you, Steve. Y'all ready? Got Texas A&M at College Station at 7:30 Eastern, 6:30 Central. Mr. Fink corrected me there. But out at Kyle Field in a great game day atmosphere there. Thinking back to being a defensive coordinator at Texas and what a great rivalry that was, and hopefully will someday continue to be. But great atmosphere. They redid the stadium after I think the first year in the SEC. We were at Florida, and we had a great game with Johnny Manziel over there in College Station. And then, 2 years ago to see what they've done with their stadium is pretty amazing. But a great atmosphere. Jimbo's got a good football team. Got a lot of respect for Jimbo, obviously knowing him since the 90s. Kellen Mond's a 3-year starter, a dual threat guy, can hurt you in multiple ways. Can hurt you with his legs. He's got arm talent. He can make all the throws, and I think you see Jimbo puts a lot on the quarterback at the line, checking in and out of the run game, protections, doing a lot of different things with him at the line of scrimmage, and he's done a really nice job for. Really talented at receiver. Courtney Davis, number 1, Jamon Osborne, number 2. Big receivers, guys that have been very productive for them, vertical balls, underneath throws, get them the ball in the speed sweeps and different things. Rogers is a 6'4" guy. Buckley's a 6'3" guy. Nea Smith is a smaller guy, but a returner and a really good player for a freshman. At the running back position, it really hurt him when they lost. Jay-Sean Corbin's a really good player. I believe he tore his hamstring and he's been out for the year. But they've had 2 young backs really develop for him. Really 3 guys come on for him, Spiller and Cabote, and then Cordavian out of Memphis is a good player for him as well. And they got 2 young tight ends, 85 and 86, that are guys you've got to account for in the throwing game, and they're very athletic up front. Defensively, Mike Elko does a really nice job for him as their defensive coordinator. The 2 guys that jump out at you up front is number 5, Brown, and number 52, Justin Mabuke, I believe. But both of those guys are very active, big bodies, and guys you've got to account for on the line of scrimmage. Buddy Johnson's a really good linebacker. They've got some guys down in the secondary, but they are long and athletic, and they've got some depth there. So the punter's outstanding. He can flip the field. He's been a guy that I think we've faced the last 2 years. He and Joe are 2 of the better probably punters in the country, in my opinion. So got our work cut out for us. We're looking forward to getting back on the field, obviously. Injury-wise, Tavian Feaster or Trey Smith and A.J. Turner were probably questionable to doubtful. They all took part in practice, but I don't know how much more they'd be able to go. And Jalen Nichols is out, and Hank Manos is back. He was actually back last week, and he's cleared to play this week. And I'll open it up for any questions.
Will O'Brien and Shy good to go for this week?
Yeah, they practiced today. They're good.
And also, coming into this season, you had all this experience, a lot of old guys who played a lot of ball. How surprising is it that that group has been so inconsistent, and how can you try to repair that?
Well, I think that, you from a standpoint of it's been frustrating, and that's you got number one place you got to look in the mirror and me. You got to be more consistent with those guys, more productive with those guys across the board. I think we've made a lot of improvement defensively from game 1 till now. In those situations, and I think we've got the older guys that are playing extremely well for us. And you look at Brian Edwards, and the year he's had has been fantastic, and we just need to be more consistent, but we certainly need to be more productive offensively.
What have you seen from Ernest Jones as far as being a leader on the field through these tough times?
Yeah, just a very steady player, number 1, very smart, very intelligent, has respect of his teammates. When he talks, they listen. And a guy that's been a really good practice player for us, has really, developed himself into being a really good Southeastern Conference linebacker. And he's had a really productive year for us. But we put a lot on him at the line as far as formation checks and different things that we do, front-wise, pressure-wise, coverage-wise. And, he's a very, very intelligent young man. He handles those things extremely well. And he's handled, being a sophomore linebacker and being really the signal caller for our defense very well.
Well, if Brian, God forbid, gets injured again, is there a plan without him now going forward? Obviously, it was really hard to move the ball without him on Saturday night.
Sure. Well, he was cleared to come back in the second quarter, and I felt like I think there were 7 minutes to go when Clint Haggard came to me, and I just said, let's hold him till halftime. We're fine. We'll get him back at, after half. So, Xavier Leggett, Chad Terrell, Chavis Dawkins is back. So we've got guys that are certainly more than capable.
Will, when Shy's out and Chavis is out, just how limited are you in terms of just attacking downfield with just Brian seemingly as your only downfield?
Well, I mean,
threat?
that's just it. You become very predictable, obviously, and when you don't have really a vertical threat that people have seen, and obviously we think Xavier as a young player is a very promising and has got a huge upside and is going to be a really good football player for us, but just hasn't done it consistently on our level, and it certainly limits you as far as some things. As far as some of the run boxes you're going to face aren't going to be very favorable, and we've got to be able to get people off of us.
Will, the players were mentioning earlier that it has been brought up in terms of having to win these next two games and become bowl eligible. Is that something you've talked to them personally, and what would that mean for this team with all the ups and downs you guys have gone through?
No, I haven't addressed that. I address each week as a season, and it's Texas A&M, and it's focusing on our football team and Texas A&M, and that's it. So that's what we need to be focused in on.
Will, what were your emotions like being on the field with Jake Bentley before the game on Saturday night?
Well, it was just tough, number one for all the seniors, the contributions they've had, the amount of time that we spend with these young people. People have no idea that, the amount of time you spend and seeing them develop as a freshman now to a senior. But certainly with Jake has been very special to me personally, the contributions he's made to this program. The success that he's had as a quarterback here at the University of South Carolina, and we'll continue to have discussions with him moving forward on what his future will entail. But he's meant a lot to me personally. His family, the Bentley family, has meant a lot to me personally, and I appreciate everything he's done.
Will, do you want him to come back and play next year, and when do you expect that decision?
I do, and I think, again, we talked about December. Gene, we talked about, we're going to let the season get over and then regular season, and then as we move into December, we'll have those discussions. Yep. And that's true with everybody. And that's true with any NFL. Gene, that's when we normally have those discussions, and there's a right time and a right place, and that's kind of how I do it.
Just wanted to check with Ortre, Tavian, and AJ. None of them practiced today?
No, they're on the field practicing
they're
today.
on the field.
I don't know how much they're going to be able to do game day.
Will, on your Sunday teleconference, you kind of talked about progress being made. Have you made the progress you wanted to in year 4? And if not, just kind of what's been the biggest hindrance maybe to that?
Well, this is a results business. It's about winning games at the end of the day, and we haven't won enough games. So that's the bottom line. So, as far as the main progress that needs to be made is winning football games. So we haven't made that progress. I think over a 3-year period of time, this staff's won more games than any staff has in school history. So we actually have done a couple good things around here. Okay, and we've had a very inconsistent year, and I'll continue to evaluate that, and when the season's over, make the decision we need to make moving forward.
Going off of that, Will, there was a report yesterday in Football Scoop basically said that the administration is putting a little pressure on maybe making some staff changes. Is that true? And
No,
do you
that's absolutely false.
Okay.
And no one has said anything to me about anything about staff changes.
Do you anticipate any staff changes?
I'll evaluate the staff when the year's over with, just like I always do.
What's been the biggest key to the improved linebacker play year over year?
Well, I think, John, I think just to go back to year 2, getting Sky back was huge. I mean, that's a guy that, was very instinctive. I mean, ended his career with, I think, 14 interceptions. He leads South Carolina in school history. So just a very instinctive linebacker. And I thought he and TJ complemented each other very well with that. I thought we were a little inconsistent in year 3, quite frankly. And I think this year, Ernest is a very calming factor for our front 7, as far as making calls, as far as making sure everybody's aligned in the right spot, erasing a lot of issues maybe from an alignment standpoint, from a technique standpoint, to make sure everybody's on the same page. And obviously TJ being a guy that's really been a 4-year starter, I guess I'd say 3-year starter, but he's played for 4 years. And both of those guys played really well together. And I think a huge part of their play this year has been our front, because our front demands a lot of double teams, and what we call twofers. They demand a lot of double teams. It keeps our linebackers free. Going back and watching some run cut-ups from last year as opposed to this year, there's a huge difference, and we're playing blocks much better up front. And I think that's been a huge, part of, Ernest and TJ having good years, is how our front has played.
Coach, I think Brian's record got a little bit buried under all the emotions on Saturday, but just looking back on it, he's now the all-time leader in receiving
Yeah.
yards. What can you say about him and just the kind of player that he's been over the past few years?
Well, I mean, I don't know what else to say. He's a better young man than he is football player. He's meant a lot to this program. And you look at some of there's some of the greatest receivers that have ever played the game. And when you talk in terms of some of the guys that have come through this program, and we're still trying to get that touchdowns record to make sure we get that as well. But very deserving of any accolades he gets. You see how he's competing on game day. That's the way he does in practice. That's the way he represents himself, our university, our program, his family. But he is a first-class teammate, human being, and is about all the right things you want at the University of South Carolina.
Will, you mentioned the quality of punters that will be on the field
Yeah.
on Saturday. Obviously, they're not going to be on the field at the same time, but do you feel from Joseph this week an extra sense of urgency to prove he's the number one guy in the country and not just one of the top guys?
Well, Coach Hutzler told me Sunday night the guy at A&M was better, so I don't know. You figure that out.
You disagree?
I disagree a lot. I defended Joe. His own coach didn't. No, I'm just kidding. But that guy's really good. I mean, they are two of the best that I've ever seen as far as on the college level punting. Both guys can flip the field to hang the ball. So they're really good as far as the pooch, those situations are concerned. But both guys are outstanding.
Well, a little off topic. You've got a couple of guys on your defense with NFL dads. Are those you've probably recruited players like that your whole career? Are those players, I don't know, do they have a better attention to the detail coming in? Are they are they better prepared maybe for this level because of what they've gone through with their fathers?
I think anyone's experience, that's been able to have an experience like playing in the National Football League, having the opportunity of coach there, it's all ball. It's you get in there in the morning and you start meetings, you have walkthroughs, you eat, you have meetings again, you have walkthrough, you have practice, you watch the film, and it's a full day of ball. And anybody that has that experience obviously is going to gain knowledge of how things are done and how things are done the right way, and how you're supposed to practice, how you're supposed to prepare. And I think that it's been a wonderful experience with those young players, and JC and Shiloh, I'm assuming that's who you're referring to, because their dads did it the right way. They played at an extremely high level. They understood. Obviously, God blessed them with a lot of ability, but you talk to the people that played with those guys, their work ethic was what was special as well. And that's what I would say. And JC and Shiloh are both really hard workers. They take it serious. It's important to them. And that's why JC's been a very productive player, and Shiloh's going to be a good player for us as well. We're going to try and preserve his red shirt this year. He's played in 4 games. We're holding him right now. But he's still practicing with us and taking all the reps.
I guess it sounds like their dads understand that, hey, you guys are the coaches, and
Joe and Dion have been awesome. And it's, I think there's a certain, they understand, what we go through as coaches and the different things that you travel down, but they've been wonderful. They really have. I go back to the recruiting process. They were great in the recruiting process. What's that? Deuce Staley, I'm sorry. Damani. Deuce was at the game on Saturday. So, and Damani's been wonderful. So.
Are you guys considering any offensive line personnel changes?
No. I feel like that. Obviously we weren't as effective as we needed to be Saturday night, and we certainly are more than capable of playing better.
On a different subject, how has the targeting call changed the way the game is played, if it has?
No, you spend a lot of time, talking and really and defensively. And on special teams, talking in terms of lowering your targets and getting the head out of the contact, out of the tackle. I can't tell you how many times in training camp that we talk and meet with our guys about those things, and then have examples, whether it's from us, a game, a practice, or examples, from our league office about, lowering. This is going to be considered targeting. You're going to be ejected from the game if this happens. And nobody wants to be ejected from the game. But I think it's an awesome rule from a standpoint of player safety, and trying to eliminate some of the contact with the head. And we've tried to remove the the head out of the tackle and out of the contact.
From the film you've watched over the last 3, 4, 5 years, do you think offenses are attacking the middle of the field differently than they did because of the rule?
No, I think that, schematically, I think certain people, especially if they have, vertical people inside, bigger bodies inside, will attack the middle of the field, and some are more, apt to attack the outside of the field. I don't think that rule's changed anything.
You mentioned Shiloh. Are there any other guys who are kind of on that redshirt edge?
Well, Trey Kenyon and Keyshawn Toney have both played in 2 games, so we're trying to manage that right now. Cam Smith's played in 3, so we're going to probably sit him this weekend and not play him this weekend. And then off the top of my head, I think those have been the guys we've had discussions about when we went through it on Sunday, but that's where we are right now.
And on another subject, with the state of your kind of receiver core, what is that? How much does that limit you schematically? Maybe not having kind of the horses you would want to.
Well, again, we're going to have Shy back. We're going to have Shavis Dawkins back. Well, yeah, certainly, from a practice standpoint, of a little uncertain sometimes when you get into a Wednesday or Thursday whether or not who's going to be up for you. So you got new faces in there, and obviously it takes turns and reps to learn things at times and to block different looks, whether it's a middle field, whether it's split safety, whether it's cover 2, it's quarters, whatever the case may be. How are we going to run the route based on the leverage of the safety? Got to be on the same page as the quarterback. So yeah, it does. There's some issues with that.
From a communication standpoint, how's Ryan done on the road? Has he sort of progressed from week to week with those away games? And
yeah, I think obviously the Missouri game was not a great situation for us, and we didn't help him a lot around him. We didn't run the ball well at all. We came back home to Kentucky, and I thought he improved and played extremely well. And I thought when he was in the game in Athens, he played extremely well. I thought he did some really nice things. So we'll continue to progress. We had the lead going in at Tennessee at halftime. We came out in the second half and, didn't respond as well as we would have liked. But I think the communication has not been an issue for us since early on.
And obviously, you guys practice with crowd noise piped in. Is there anything with the quarterbacks that they do, any kind of like drills or anything along those lines to help try to simulate that stuff to make it harder?
No, hell, just really the 11-on-11 with crowd noise, because it's about everybody being on the same page when the ball snapped, and the substitution, the signals. I mean, all of those things with the crowd noise and under duress going on.
Well, looking at the drop passes Saturday, how much of that was a lot of young receivers maybe just not having that experience, and how much was it anything else?
Well, I mean, again, I think there were some traffic throws that were going across the middle, and a body flashes in front. You got to keep focused and stay on the ball and catch the back tip of the ball in some of those situations. But the bottom line is, the ball hits your hands, you need to catch the football, and that's get on the jugs a little bit more. And I know Brian's been that with some of the receivers as we continue to move forward. McClendon, yeah.
Well, even going back to your time in Baton Rouge together, how have you seen Jimbo's offensive philosophy evolve over the years?
Well, I think, he's always wanted to have a two-back formula, and he does have a fullback there at Texas A&M, and the guy that was the 12th man graduated last year, who was a perfect fit for what he wanted in a fullback. Always been multiple with tight ends. A lot of the route concepts haven't changed since LSU. From that standpoint, the run game, I think, evolves a little bit depending on what his offensive line does best, what his back feels comfortable with, and then what kind of quarterback. Does he have a quarterback with legs that he's willing to run, or do he have a quarterback that maybe he's not, as willing to run with, But obviously with Kellen Mond, he has a quarterback with legs that he's able to run with. So those are the things that I see, and there's some tweaks here and there, year to year, but you turn on the tape, it dates you back to about 2003, sitting in Baton Rouge and going against him in the spring ball and fall camp and all that kind of stuff. But he's a really good football coach, and really helped me a lot in my career. We were GA. I was a GA at Auburn in 95 and 96 when he was the quarterback coach for Terry Bowden, and I got hired as a graduate assistant on the defensive side of the ball. And he really, he and Pete Jenkins, got Coach Saban to give me an interview when I was at Valdosta State, and went to Baton Rouge to interview. So I really appreciate Jimbo and Pete going to bat for me with Nick.
Well, what's your message to the fans who have lost faith in this staff now in year 4?
Again, we've had in our first 3 years a lot of more success than anybody else has, and we haven't played as consistently as we need to. And there's some things that we need to address as we move forward, and continue to support these players, continue to support what they do. We've got another home game, and we need to get 2 wins and go to a bowl game. So, we've had some success here before that some other people haven't, and we look forward to a long tenure here at South Carolina.
You've mentioned facing a lot of like heavy run boxes. Just what have you seen defenses kind of schematically try to stop your offense, and what are they doing to kind of maybe confuse Ryan, who's still in his freshman year?
I don't know that necessarily to confusing Ryan as much. So, there's been, obviously Missouri and Appalachian State, and that's who they are defensively. It was a lot of movement, a lot of what I would call 3-down odd structure movement, whether it's, creating the 4th rusher or the 5th rusher with a linebacker, or whether it's an inside or outside linebacker, spinning an extra safety down to the box, whether you're in middle field or you're in some sort of what we would call a quarters cheat, where you're playing quarters with an overhang and a safety down to the backside and zeroing out the X receiver. So, those are some things we've seen, with some people. And the frustrating part, Colin, is we run the ball well against some of those people, and we didn't Saturday night, and that's the frustrating part for us. All righty, y'all have a great day.